Liara walked through the long corridor of her family's relic hall. The walls were high and cold, decorated with banners of battles fought centuries ago. Strange lights floated like glowing orbs, giving the place an eerie beauty. She had been inside this place many times before, but today was different. Today, she was not alone. Beside her walked Ethan, a young human who had arrived on their world only months ago. He was curious, sometimes too curious, and his questions never ended. But Liara liked that about him. Most people in her city treated humans as weak outsiders, good only for small work, never for anything greater. But Ethan had a brave heart and a strange way of smiling even in danger. That smile made Liara want to show him secrets no human had ever seen. "This is the relic hall of my family," Liara said, her voice filled with pride. "Every item here belongs to my ancestors. Weapons, scrolls, and armor." Ethan's eyes widened as he looked around. His footsteps echoed against the stone floor. "Armor like old battle armor?" he asked, half excited, half doubtful. Liara smirked. "Not just battle armor. The armor of Artheon, the greatest warrior of my bloodline. It is said that no alien, no warrior, no priest has ever been able to wear it since his death. The armor rejects everyone, but it has been kept as a symbol of honor." They walked toward a large pedestal at the center of the hall. Upon it stood the armor, tall and proud, shining with a dull metallic glow. It looked ancient but not broken, like it had been waiting for something. The chest plate was engraved with strange patterns that seemed to move if one looked too long. Ethan stopped in front of it. He could almost feel the weight of history pressing down. "That looks incredible," he whispered. Liara folded her arms, teasing him. "Do you want to try it on? You'll probably collapse under its weight." She laughed, thinking it would be a harmless joke. No one in centuries had been able to even move a single piece of that armor. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Are you serious?" "Yes," Liara said, still laughing. "Go on, human. Let's see what happens when you try." Ethan hesitated. He knew this was sacred, but curiosity pulled him closer. Slowly he reached out his hand. His fingers brushed against the cold metal of the chest plate. The hall fell silent. The floating lights flickered. Liara's laughter froze in her throat. The armor pulsed. Before either of them could react, the chest plate detached itself from the pedestal and clamped onto Ethan's chest. He gasped, stumbling backward, but the armor held him tight. A glow spread across his body as more pieces lifted into the air. Gauntlets, shoulder plates, a helmet, all began attaching to him with streams of light. "Ethan!" Liara shouted, stepping forward, panic rising in her chest. She tried to pull one piece off him, but the armor sparked with energy and pushed her back. The ground shook as if the hall itself had awakened. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the ancient banners swayed as a deep humming sound filled the air. Symbols on the armor lit up, burning with a golden fire. Ethan's eyes widened, his voice shaking. "What's happening to me?" he shouted. Liara could barely speak. This is impossible. No one has ever..." The armor fully sealed around him. Ethan was standing tall, his body glowing with a strange power. He looked less like the human she knew and more like a warrior reborn from legend. And then, the visions came. Ethan's mind was pulled into a storm of images. He saw vast battlefields where humans and aliens fought side by side. He saw warriors wearing the same armor, leading armies against monstrous creatures from the stars. He heard a voice, deep, commanding, speaking in words he did not understand. Liara watched helplessly as Ethan staggered, his hands gripping the sides of his head. She could feel the raw energy pouring out of him. The relic hall was no longer silent. The walls themselves glowed with the same symbols. Finally, the voice spoke clearly in Ethan's head. "You have awakened me." The glow dimmed, but the power did not fade. Ethan stood there, breathing heavily, still armored from head to toe. His eyes shone faintly with the same golden fire. Liara's heart pounded. She had wanted to play a simple joke, nothing more. But now she realized something terrifying. The armor had chosen Ethan. A human, for centuries her people had tried and failed. The greatest warriors, the strongest champions, the most devoted priests. None could make the armor respond. Yet here stood a young man from a distant world, wearing it as if it had been waiting only for him. Liara whispered almost to herself. Why him? Why a human? Ethan turned his head slowly toward her. His voice was heavy, layered with something not entirely his own. I don't know. But I think this armor has been waiting. For me. The relic hall trembled again, and in the shadows above, unseen eyes awakened. The armor's return had not gone unnoticed. The joke had ended. Something far greater had begun. The relic hall had grown silent again, but the silence was heavy, like the moment before a storm. Dust still floated in the air, and the glow of the armor refused to fade. Ethan stood at the center, armored from head to toe, his chest rising and falling with every deep breath. His eyes still carried the faint golden fire, and every movement he made sounded sharper, heavier, as though the armor had become part of him. Liara did not dare move closer. Her voice trembled as she whispered, You should not be able to wear that. Ethan tried to steady himself, but the world around him looked different now. The floating lights above weren't just lights anymore. He could see strange currents of energy swirling inside them. He could hear sounds too far away for normal ears. The distant beat of wings, the faint hum of power lines, even Liara's quick heartbeat. Something's wrong, he muttered, his voice deeper than before. I can feel everything. The armor pulsed once more and new symbols flashed across its surface. Suddenly, beams of light shot into the air, painting the hall with strange shapes. The walls responded, glowing in the same patterns as though the entire building had been waiting for this moment. Liara stumbled back. Her ancestors had built this place, but she had never seen it come alive. This isn't possible, she whispered. Even the council tried to force the armor awake. It rejected them. It rejected everyone. Ethan lifted his hands, staring at them in shock. Energy rippled across the armor, making his fingers spark with tiny arcs of light. He clenched his fists, terrified. It doesn't feel like it's rejecting me, he said. It feels like it's calling me. Before Liara could answer, the air cracked with a loud echo. A hidden doorway in the hall slid open, releasing a blinding blue light. From the darkness beyond, a deep mechanical voice echoed. Bearer of the lost oath. You have returned. Both Ethan and Liara froze. The voice didn't come from any person. It came from the walls, the floor, the air itself. Who's there? Ethan shouted. His voice trembled, though the armor made it sound powerful. The voice replied, slow and heavy. The armor recognizes you. The last blood of the oath-bearers. You are chosen. Liara shook her head violently. That cannot be true. Humans were never oath-bearers. They were never part of this legacy. But Ethan remembered the visions. He had seen humans fighting in ancient wars alongside armored warriors. He had heard the voices of leaders commanding soldiers in a language he somehow understood. Deep inside, he knew this wasn't random. The armor flared again. Ethan fell to one knee, clutching his head as another wave of vision struck him. He saw armies marching under banners, creatures of shadow falling to blazing swords, and a circle of alien and human leaders binding themselves in a pact with golden light. He saw betrayal. He saw silence. And then the memory faded, leaving him gasping for air. Liara ran to his side, kneeling next to him. Ethan, you have to take it off. It's too dangerous. He looked at her, his voice broken but firm. I don't think I can. It's not letting me go, her heart sank. This was no longer a joke. If the council found out, Ethan would be treated as a criminal. Or worse, a weapon. And as if answering her fear, the great doors of the hall burst open. A group of alien guards stormed inside, armed with glowing spears. Their leader, Elder Varric, stepped forward, his eyes burning with anger. What have you done, Liara? He shouted, his voice echoing through the hall. You let an outsider touch the sacred armor? Liara stood up quickly. It was an accident. I didn't know it would. Silence, Varric roared. His eyes locked on Ethan, still glowing faintly inside the armor. Remove it, human. That relic belongs to our bloodline, not yours. Ethan tried to stand, but the armor moved before he could. A golden shield flared around him, blocking the guards who tried to rush forward. The spears clashed against the barrier and shattered like glass. Everyone froze. The armor had not only accepted Ethan, it was protecting him. Varric's face turned pale. He stepped back, whispering as though speaking to himself. This cannot be. The prophecy. Ethan raised his head, his voice heavy and unfamiliar. I didn't ask for this. But if this armor chose me, I need to know why. Liara felt a shiver run through her body. This was no longer about jokes or relics. This was about something far older, something her people had hidden even from themselves. The guards hesitated, unsure whether to attack again or bow in fear. The hall itself seemed to pulse with life around Ethan, as though the very stones recognized him. Liara took a deep breath, her eyes narrowing. "Ethan, we have to get out of here now before the council takes you away." Ethan looked down at his glowing hands. The power terrified him, but some part of him felt it was his destiny. He nodded. "Then let's run," he said. Behind them, Elder Varric's furious cry echoed. "Do not let them escape." The human cannot leave with the armor. The chase had begun. The night air outside the relic hall was sharp and cold. Liara and Ethan ran through the narrow stone streets of her city, the golden glow of the armor casting light with every step Ethan took. Behind them, shouts echoed as guards spread out, their spears crackling with energy. Liara's mind raced. If the council captured Ethan now, he would never live to tell his story. They would strip the armor, study him like a test subject, or worse, destroy him. She grabbed his hand and pulled him into a hidden passage between two towers. "Keep moving," she hissed. "Don't let them surround us." Ethan's breathing was heavy, but not from weakness. The armor made him stronger, faster, even more aware of everything around them. He could sense the footsteps of the guards before they even turned a corner. "Left," he shouted suddenly. Liara obeyed, and a spear slashed past where they had been a second earlier. She looked at him in shock. "How did you—" "I don't know," Ethan said quickly. "I just felt it." The armor pulsed again, golden veins running across its surface like living light. Liara couldn't deny it anymore. The relic had not only accepted Ethan, it was guiding him. But their escape didn't last long. At the city gates, a squad of armored soldiers blocked their way. The leader stepped forward, holding a banner with the council's crest. His voice boomed across the square. "By order of the Galactic Council, surrender the armor and the human who wears it." Do not resist. Liara's chest tightened. The council already knew. Somehow word had reached them within minutes. This was no ordinary incident. It was being treated as a crisis. Ethan stood his ground, though fear burned in his chest. "I don't want to fight you," he called out. "I don't even understand what's happening," the soldier sneered. "The armor is not yours. You are an intruder. If you will not surrender, we will take it by force." As the soldiers raised their weapons, the armor reacted on its own. A shield of golden light expanded from Ethan's body, forcing the attackers back. The impact shook the ground, knocking down entire stone pillars nearby. Dust rose into the air, and for a moment the square glowed like a battlefield from an ancient war. Gasps spread through the crowd of onlookers who had gathered. "The prophecy," someone whispered. "It's true." Ethan turned to Liara, his voice steady but confused. "What prophecy?" Liara's eyes were wide with fear. She remembered the old stories her elders told in secret, stories most dismissed as myths. Long ago, when the great oath was broken, a warrior would return. Not from our world, not from our blood. He would wear the armor, and the hidden power would rise again. Ethan felt the weight of her words. The visions he had seen, the humans and aliens fighting together, the betrayal, the silence, it all fit too well. Before they could speak further, the soldiers regrouped. A horn echoed through the night sky, deep and chilling. The sound meant only one thing. The council's high guard had been summoned. And then they arrived. From above, massive ships descended, their engines shaking the city. Golden beams of light shot down, forming a barrier around the square. At the center of the beam stood the High Guardians, warriors clad in ceremonial black and silver armor, their faces hidden behind glowing masks. Each one carried a weapon forged in the council's vaults, weapons said to rival even the relics of old. The crowd fell to its knees in silence. The High Guardians were not just soldiers. They were executioners, judges, and the council's iron fist. One stepped forward, his voice cold and echoing. "Human, remove the relic. Stand down and you may yet live." Ethan's fist tightened. "It won't come off." "I didn't choose this." "Then we will rip it from your corpse," the Guardian said flatly. Liara moved between them, her arms spread wide. "No, he is not an enemy. The armor chose him. You all saw it." But her words were drowned in the sound of clashing weapons as the Guardians attacked. Their spears of crackling energy struck against Ethan's shield, sending waves of sparks into the air. Ethan staggered under the pressure, but the armor pushed back, releasing blasts of golden fire that knocked the Guardians off their feet. The square became chaos. Citizens screamed and scattered, buildings cracked from the force, and the golden light of the armor clashed with the cold silver of the Council's blades. And then, everything froze. A deep voice filled the square, not from Ethan, not from the Guardians, but from above. A projection shimmered into existence. The Council itself, a circle of alien leaders sitting in judgment. Their eyes glowed as they watched the scene. One of them, an elder with a voice like thunder, spoke. The human has awakened forbidden power. He is a danger to every world in this galaxy. He must be taken, studied, and destroyed if necessary. Ethan's heart sank. The most powerful rulers in the galaxy had just marked him as a threat, but another counselor raised her hand. Her voice was softer but filled with warning. Or perhaps, he is the one the oath promised, the one we feared. If so, then our age of rule is coming to an end. The council chamber fell into silence. The Guardians lowered their weapons, waiting for judgment. Liara stepped closer to Ethan, her voice low but urgent. You cannot stay here. They'll never let you live free. Whatever this armor wants from you, it won't stop. You have to choose now. Fight them or escape with me. Ethan looked at the circle of leaders in the sky, then at the terrified crowd, then at his own glowing hands. The choice was impossible, but he knew one thing. Nothing would ever be the same again. The golden glow of Ethan's armor still shimmered across the broken square. The High Guardians stood in tense silence, their weapons lowered but ready. Above, the holographic image of the council flickered, their cold eyes fixed on the human who had changed everything. Liara's voice broke through the heavy silence. You can't keep him like a prisoner. If the armor chose him, then it means something. You fear him because you fear what the truth might reveal. Her words echoed in the square, but no one dared agree. Citizens hid behind broken walls, too afraid to speak. The counselor with the thunderous voice leaned forward in his projection, his eyes glowing. Human, he said coldly. If you resist, you will bring war upon this city. Do not test our will. Ethan looked up at the projection. For a moment, he felt small, like a child standing against giants. Yet the armor hummed on his skin, a steady pulse that gave him strength. He raised his voice clear and strong. I didn't ask for this, but if this armor chose me, then you can't control it. And you can't control me, the counselors muttered among themselves, their images rippling with anger. Then the elder counselor gave the order, take him. The High Guardians moved at once. Spears of silver energy sliced through the air. Ethan raised his hands instinctively, and the armor reacted. A wave of golden force exploded outward, knocking the Guardians back like leaves in a storm. The shockwave cracked stone, shattered glass, and sent dust billowing through the square. Liara grabbed Ethan's arm. This way. We can't hold them forever. They ran into the twisting streets as alarms rang across the city. Towers lit up with warning lights and ships roared overhead, cutting off escape routes. Every path they turned down, soldiers were waiting. Ethan clenched his fists, and each time the armor responded, creating barriers of light or bursts of force that threw their pursuers away. But each use drained him. He felt the weight of the armor pulling deeper into his body, like it was fusing with his soul. Finally, Liara pulled him into an abandoned shrine at the edge of the city. The air inside was heavy with dust and forgotten prayers. She pushed a hidden panel in the floor, revealing a narrow stairwell. Down here. The tunnels lead outside the walls. They hurried inside just as more soldiers stormed the streets above. The stairwell was dark, lit only by the soft glow of the armor. The tunnels smelled of old earth, and the walls were carved with strange markings. Ethan brushed his fingers against them, and the carvings glowed faintly in response. Liara stopped, her eyes wide. It knows you. Even these tunnels. Ethan swallowed hard. What is this place? She shook her head. Old passageways. My ancestors built them, but no one remembers why. They said these paths were cursed. Now I think they were meant for the one who wore the armor. As they walked deeper, Ethan's visions returned. This time, he saw a circle of alien leaders, different from the council, gathered around a human warrior wearing the same armor. They placed their hands together, swearing an oath in fire and light, An oath to fight against a darkness that threatened all life. But then he saw betrayal. The oath was broken. The warrior fell, abandoned by those who had sworn loyalty. The armor was locked away, waiting for another bearer. Ethan stumbled against the wall, breathing heavily. Liara rushed to steady him. "What did you see?" He looked at her, his eyes burning with golden light. "I saw the oath. Humans were part of it. We fought beside your people once. But someone betrayed it all. That's why the armor was sealed away." Liara's face paled. If what he said was true, then the council had been hiding more than just history. They had buried the truth itself. Suddenly the tunnel shook. Explosions thundered above, and dust rained down from the ceiling. The council's forces had found the shrine. "We don't have much time," Liara said urgently. "There's a passage ahead that leads outside the city walls. But it's dangerous. It goes through the catacombs." "Then that's where we go," Ethan replied. His voice was steady now, even as the ground quaked around them. As they pressed deeper into the tunnels, faint whispers filled the air. Ethan could feel the armor reacting, its light flickering in rhythm with the whispers. Liara gripped her weapon tightly, fear rising. The catacombs are said to hold the restless dead. Not even guards come here. The whispers grew louder. Shapes moved in the shadows. Skeletal remains wrapped in broken armor, glowing faintly with unnatural energy. Ethan raised his hand and the golden light flared, pushing the shapes back. "They fear you," Liara whispered. "They're not afraid of me," Ethan said softly. "They're afraid of the armor." The skeletal figures melted back into the dark as the two moved forward. The air grew colder, the whispers fading into silence. Finally, a sliver of moonlight appeared ahead. A way out. But as they stepped into the open, they saw a line of council ships waiting above the valley. Dozens of them, their weapons glowing. At the center, hovering like a predator, was the flagship of the High Guard. Liara's heart sank. "They'll never stop, Ethan. They'll hunt you across every star." Ethan looked up at the ships, then down at his armored hands. He felt the oath of the ancient warriors burning in his blood. "Then let them come," he said quietly. "If this armor chose me, it's for a reason. I won't run forever." Above them, the council flagship's lights flared, and a new voice boomed across the valley. "Human, your trial begins now." The night sky burned with the glow of council warships. Their engines hummed like thunder, and beams of light cut across the valley, trapping Ethan and Liara beneath a cage of brilliance. The flagship of the High Guard hovered at the center, its shadow swallowing the mountains behind it. The voice boomed again from the heavens. "Human, you claim the relic has chosen you. Then prove it. By ancient law, the bearer must face the trial of fire." Ethan felt his chest tighten inside the armor. The golden light around him pulsed, as though it understood the words before he did. He turned to Liara, his voice low. "What's the trial of fire?" Her eyes were grim. "It's not a test meant for humans. It was created to break warriors. Few even survive." "Survive what?" Ethan asked. She swallowed hard. "The trial summons the ancient guardians of the oath. Creatures not alive, not dead. They test your courage, your will, and your soul. If you fail, the armor leaves you. If you die, you die." Ethan looked back at the sky, his fists trembling. The council was forcing him into this. But deep down, he felt the armor agreeing. This was part of the path. He nodded slowly. "Then I'll face it." The ground beneath them shook. Rings of fire erupted around the valley, rising like walls of flame. The earth cracked, and from the fissures came shapes, towering figures forged of molten rock and glowing embers. Their eyes burned like coals, and every step they took made the valley tremble. Liara gasped. "The fire sentinels." There were 3 of them. Each stood twice as tall as Ethan, wielding massive weapons shaped from fire and stone. The council's ships dimmed their lights, giving full view of the trial below. Thousands of alien citizens watched from projection screens across the city, their whispers carrying across the air. "Destroy the human. Let the armor reject him. End this madness." Ethan raised his hands. The armor flared with golden light, a shield forming just as the first sentinel swung a blade of fire at him. The impact was thunderous, the shield holding but cracking with strain. Ethan staggered back, feeling the heat burn through. Liara shouted from the edge of the circle. "Don't fight their strength with strength. The armor isn't only power, it's memory. Use it. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, focusing. The visions returned. Ancient warriors fighting these same creatures. He saw them moving with precision, dodging instead of resisting. Their armor flowed like liquid light, striking at weak points where the fire dimmed. The sentinel roared and swung again. This time Ethan moved faster, sliding under the massive blade, the armor guiding his every step. His hand glowed, shaping into a golden spear. With a cry, he drove it into the creature's chest. The fire inside flickered, and the giant collapsed into shards of stone. The crowd watching from the city gasped. The first sentinel had fallen, but the second was already upon him. Its whip of molten chains lashed out, wrapping around Ethan's shield. The heat seared through, burning his arm even under the armor. He cried out in pain. Liara screamed, rushing toward the firewall, but it blocked her, scorching her back. "Ethan!" The armor pulsed again, whispering through his mind. Endure, endure as they endured. Ethan gritted his teeth, pulling against the chain. The armor surged, turning his shield into a blazing golden blade. With one powerful strike, he severed the molten whip and charged forward, plunging the blade through the creature's head. The second sentinel crumbled into smoke. Only one remained. The third sentinel was the largest, its body glowing brighter than the others. It carried no weapon. Its hands themselves were fire. It slammed the ground, sending waves of molten rock across the valley. Ethan jumped aside, but the heat burned his legs, forcing him to stumble. The sentinel loomed above him, ready to crush him with a fiery fist. Ethan raised his arms, but the armor was slowing. His strength was draining, and for the first time he felt the armor might abandon him. "No," Ethan growled through clenched teeth. "You chose me. Don't give up now." The golden fire inside the armor blazed brighter. Symbols raced across its surface faster than ever before. Ethan's body lifted into the air, his voice echoing with power not his own. "I am the bearer of the oath." The sentinel hesitated, its fire dimming slightly as if recognizing those words. Ethan seized the moment. With a roar, he dove straight into the heart of the creature, driving all of the armor's energy forward. The explosion lit the valley like a new sun. Fire and stone burst in every direction. When the dust cleared, the last sentinel was gone. Ethan stood alone at the center, his armor glowing brighter than ever. The trial was over. He had survived. The crowd in the city was silent. Even the council's projection flickered in disbelief. For centuries, no one had completed the trial of fire. And now a human had done it. Liara rushed to him, her face streaked with tears and ash. "You did it. By the stars, Ethan, you did it." But Ethan's face was not full of victory. His eyes burned with something deeper. He looked at the council projection, his voice steady. "You wanted a trial. I passed. Now tell me the truth. Why did you hide this? Why bury the oath? What are you so afraid of?" The council chamber fell silent. Then one of the elders finally spoke, his voice grave. "We feared the darkness that once broke the oath, and now it stirs again." Ethan's heart sank. The trial wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The valley was still glowing faintly from the firestorm of the trial. Smoke curled into the night sky, and pieces of molten stone still hissed on the ground. Ethan stood in the center, his golden armor dimming slightly, as if resting after the battle. His chest rose and fell, exhaustion clear on his face. Liara hurried to his side, her eyes full of worry. "Ethan, are you all right?" He nodded slowly. "I'm still standing." His voice was tired, but there was strength in it too. Above them, the holographic image of the council flickered. The alien elders who had moments ago demanded his death were silent now. They had expected him to fail, but he had not only survived, he had proven stronger than any warrior in generations. Finally, the elder with the thunderous voice spoke, his tone more cautious than before. "The human has passed the trial of fire. By law, the armor accepts him. But this does not end here." Another counselor leaned forward, her voice heavy with fear. "Because the darkness stirs once more." The crowd, watching from afar, gasped. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Words like darkness in return struck terror into every heart. Liara clenched her fists. "Tell us the truth. What is this darkness you keep whispering about?" The council chamber shifted uncomfortably. Then one of the oldest elders, his skin pale as ash and his eyes glowing faint blue, finally answered. "Long ago, when the oath was sworn, Our people and humans together fought against the abyss, a force not of flesh, not of stone, but of pure void. It devoured worlds, hollowed stars, and turned armies into dust. Only by binding our souls into the oath did we drive it back. But the oath was broken, and the abyss retreated into silence. Ethan's stomach tightened. He remembered the visions. Dark skies, armies falling, light swallowed by shadow. He whispered almost to himself, "The things I saw, they were real." The elder nodded. "Yes, and now the signs are clear. The abyss awakens. Already small worlds at the edge of the galaxy have gone dark. Their people vanish without a trace." The counselor with the thunderous voice leaned forward. "This is why we feared the relic's return. We knew if it awakened, then so too had the abyss." The crowd erupted in panic. Citizens shouted, some in fear, some in anger. "The abyss cannot return. It's just myth. We are doomed." Liara turned to Ethan, her face pale. "This is why they hid the armor. Not because they feared you, but because they feared the abyss." Ethan looked at his glowing hands. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like someone trapped by destiny. "So the armor didn't choose me for glory. Chose me for war." The council's projection faded, leaving only the warships circling above. The High Guardians remained, silent and still, watching Ethan with unreadable expressions. Liara touched his arm gently. "Ethan, you survived the trial. That means you're not alone in this. I'll stand with you." He looked at her, and for the first time he smiled faintly despite the fear inside. "Then we face it together." But the night had more horrors to give. A sudden, unnatural wind swept across the valley. The fire pits from the trial flickered and died. The sky darkened, even though the moon still shone. And then a sound. A low, endless whisper rose from the cracks in the ground. Liara froze. "No, it's too soon." From the fissures left by the sentinels, black smoke began to crawl upward. The smoke twisted into shapes. Tall, thin figures with hollow faces and eyes like empty voids. Their bodies were made of shadow, their touch freezing the air around them. Ethan felt the armor react instantly, its golden fire flaring bright. His whole body vibrated as though the armor itself was afraid. One of the shadow figures hissed, its voice like knives scraping stone. "Bearer of the oath." The crowd watching from afar screamed. Ships above the valley repositioned, their weapons glowing. The council's voices returned in alarm. "The abyss has found him." The shadow figures advanced, moving silently across the valley floor. Their presence alone drained the warmth from the air. Plants withered instantly. Stones cracked under their steps. Ethan raised his hand and the armor formed a blazing shield. The shadow creatures recoiled but did not stop. Liara shouted, her voice shaking. "They're testing you. Just like the sentinels, but worse. The abyss is alive, Ethan. It wants to see if you're strong enough." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Then let's show them." The first shadow lunged, its clawed hand slashing toward him. Ethan swung his arm, a golden blade forming mid-strike. The clash lit the valley, shadow and light sparking in a violent storm. The creature shrieked and dissolved into smoke, but three more took its place. Ethan fought, the armor moving with him, guiding his strikes, his blocks, his every motion. For every shadow he cut down, two more rose from the fissures. His body screamed with exhaustion, but he refused to fall. Liara fired her plasma weapon from the edge, but it barely slowed them. Only Ethan's golden light truly hurt them. Finally, after what felt like hours, the shadows paused. They surrounded Ethan, circling him like predators. Then in unison, they spoke with one voice, "Bearer, the abyss returns. You are the first light, but even the brightest light casts a shadow." The shadows melted back into the cracks, leaving silence behind. The valley was scarred, the ground frozen where they had walked. Ethan fell to one knee, his chest heaving. Liara ran to him, clutching his shoulders. "Ethan, stay with me." He looked up at her, his golden eyes dimming. "They weren't trying to kill me. They were warning me." Liara frowned. "Warning?" Ethan's voice was hollow. "They're coming. Not just here, everywhere." This was only the beginning. The valley grew quiet, but in that silence, every soul watching knew the truth. The abyss had returned, and war was no longer a story of the past. It was their future. The valley was silent after the shadows vanished. The air was heavy, carrying the chill of the abyss. Every tree, every stone seemed drained of life. Ethan knelt in the center, golden armor flickering weakly as if the battle had taken the last of its strength. Liara held his shoulders tightly. "Ethan, you have to get up. They'll come again. Stronger next time." He raised his head, his golden eyes glowing faintly. "I know, but this armor isn't just a weapon, it's a promise. I can feel it." The oath isn't finished. Above them, the council's projection shimmered back into view. The alien elders no longer looked powerful. They looked afraid. "The abyss has returned," one said in a broken voice. Another whispered, "And only the bearer can stand against it." But the elder with the thunderous voice leaned forward, his tone sharp. "One human cannot fight the abyss. He will fail. And when he does, we all fall." Liara stood, her eyes blazing. "Then help him. Stop hiding behind fear and lies. If the abyss consumes everything, your council chambers will crumble with the rest of us." The crowd watching from the city stirred. For the first time, voices rose not in anger but in defiance. "She's right. If he carries the armor, then he is our warrior. We must stand with him." The council fell into uneasy silence. Ethan pushed himself to his feet, his voice carrying across the valley. "The abyss doesn't care about your council, your borders, or your laws. It will devour us all. The oath wasn't meant to divide us, it was meant to unite us. If I fight, I don't fight as a human alone. I fight for everyone, but I can't do it alone." His words struck deep. The golden light of the armor flared, reaching beyond the valley, beyond the city. For a brief moment, every watching citizen felt its warmth, like the memory of hope long forgotten. Then the ground split again. A roar echoed from the fissures, louder than thunder, shaking the very mountains. From the abyss below, something vast began to rise. Not a shadow this time, but a colossal form of darkness, its body twisting like smoke and fire, its eyes burning like twin black suns. The abyss itself had sent a true fragment of its power. Liara's breath caught in her throat. "Ethan, this isn't just a test. This is war." The colossal shadow raised its clawed arms, and the valley trembled as if the world itself was breaking. Ships overhead fired beams of energy, but the darkness absorbed them, swallowing their light like water into sand. Panic spread through the crowd. The council shouted commands, but their voices shook. The guardians stood frozen. Ethan stepped forward, his armor blazing again, brighter than ever before. He turned to Liara, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Stay back. If I fall, you must carry the truth. Tell them to remember the oath." Liara grabbed his hand fiercely. "No, we fight together." For a moment, Ethan hesitated. Then he nodded. The colossal shadow roared, sending a wave of darkness crashing across the valley. Ethan raised his arms, the armor forming a dome of golden light. The wave broke against it, sparks flying. His legs shook, but he held. Liara fired her weapon, striking at the creature's chest. The shots didn't pierce, but they drew its attention. "Ethan, now!" The armor guided him once more, his hands shaped into a blazing spear of pure light, longer and sharper than before. He felt the weight of every ancient warrior who had worn it, every oath that had been broken. This was their chance to make it whole again. With a roar that shook the valley, Ethan charged. The colossal shadow raised its claw, but Ethan leapt high, golden wings of light spreading from his back. For a heartbeat, he looked less like a human and more like a legend reborn. He drove the spear into the creature's core. The explosion that followed was blinding. Golden fire met black void, colliding with a force that ripped the sky itself. The valley shook, ships above were tossed like leaves, and the council's projection shattered into static. When the light finally faded, the colossal shadow was gone. Only smoke and silence remained. Ethan fell to one knee, the golden armor dimming, cracks running across its surface. Liara rushed to catch him. "Ethan!" "No, stay with me," he smiled weakly. "The oath is alive again, but this isn't the end. The abyss will come back stronger. I only slowed it down." Liara's eyes filled with tears. "Then we'll fight again, and next time you won't be alone." The crowd in the distance, once afraid, now raised their voices. "The bearer lives. The oath is reborn. We will fight." Ethan looked at them, his vision fading but his heart steady. He whispered, "That's all I wanted, to remind them. Light is never gone. It only waits." The golden armor dimmed completely, sealing itself once more around his chest like a quiet heartbeat. Ethan collapsed into Liara's arms, exhausted but alive. Above the valley, the stars shone brighter, as if the galaxy itself was listening. The war with the abyss had only just begun. But for the first time in centuries, hope had returned.